Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the next round of the Toronto Knockout Series. Today we have piping performances in the C Division playing a 2-4 march, and the A Division playing a hornpipe and jig, and the drumming contest, which is also a hornpipe and jig contest, A Division drumming. We're going to start things off with the C Division piping, and playing first is Ross McLennan. Every one of our online knockout contests, we've done a little bit of an interview with each player and asked them a thought-provoking question, mostly around kind of what got them going playing solos during a pandemic and whatnot. And so today we asked everybody, as the future looks bright and hopeful, what they're most looking forward to in the world of piping and drumming in 2022. Ross is excited to say that he will be competing with the Spirit of Ontario Pipe Band, and he's looking forward to that at the Highland Games in 2022. Today, Ross will be playing two parts of the 2-4 march. Prince Charles, welcome to Loch Arbor. Our next competitor in the C Division is Rebecca Thompson. Rebecca plays with the Kincardine Scottish Pipe Band, and she's most looking forward to getting back out and playing parades with the band in 2022. This is Rebecca's first ever solo contest, and we're so pleased that she chose the Toronto Knockout Contest for her grand debut. Today, Rebecca will be playing the 2-4 march, My Beautiful Kind Young Girl. Our last competitor in the C Division is Kate Thompson. Kate is Rebecca's twin sister, also plays with the Kincardine Scottish Pipe Band, and is also playing the 2-4 march, My Beautiful Kind Young Girl. Kate's hopes for 2022 are to see all bands, being able to host in-person practices once again, and of course, getting back to playing with the Kincardine Scottish Pipe Band and joining them on parade. Now to switch things up, we'll move into the drumming contest. Today we have two competitors in the A grade hornpipe and jig contest. To start things off, Cameron McDonald will be playing the hornpipe, Barry Ewan, and the jig, the Mermaid's Jig. Now, asking Cameron the same question about what he's hoping for in 2022, and I feel like we'll get this answer quite a bit this evening. Cameron is really looking forward to in-person Highland games. Looking forward to going out, seeing friendly faces, seeing old friends and family members reconnect on the field, and of course competing and playing solos and with a band. Play well, Cameron.
Mark.
Our next and final player in the A-grade hornpipe and jig drumming contest is Dan Pizlowski. You might recognize the name because Dan has played in our last two previous professional piping knockout contests. And today, Dan is competing as a drummer. Dan will be playing the tunes Crossing the Minch and Dr. Flora Macaulay of Caradel. And the same as Cameron, look forward to in-person Highland games again in 2022. Thanks, Dan. And that concludes our drumming contest for this afternoon. Moving right along, we'll get into our A grade hornpipe and jig contest. Just a reminder that the A grade consists of players from both grade 1 amateur and grade 2 amateur and solo rankings. And our first competitor is Greg Robertson. Today, Greg will be playing Lucy Cassidy in the Piper's Bonnet as his hornpipe and jig, and also looks forward to getting back into in-person Highland Games, but for a different reason. Greg is really looking forward to that adrenaline rush that you get as you march to the line with your band ready to compete, or that feeling you get when you're tuning your drones in front of a solo judge in the morning. I miss that feeling too, Greg, and I can't wait to get back at it in 2022. Next up, we have Mitchell Arnold. Now, when you see Mitchell play, you'll notice that he's not wearing a kilt or traditional Highland dress. That's because Mitch right now is living in Nunavut and his kilt is in Waterloo. And so we have granted him permission to compete in the contest without wearing Highland dress. Mitch today is going to be playing the hornpipe, the burst mattress, and the jig, Donald McKillop. And Mitch is looking forward to Highland Games as well, but also wishes that we can continue kind of a mixed model and still offer online competitions, because Mitch has found it really great and enlightening to be able to play in solo contests with players from around the world. Because where else would you be able to play in a contest with folks from Alberta and folks from Scotland and folks from Australia without meeting and gathering at big high ticket events? So it's a great opportunity for players from around the world to get together and compete from the comfort of their own home. Thanks, Mitch. That's a great thought. Next up, we have Trent Harris. Trent, more specifically from looking forward to the Highland Games, is looking forward to listening to the professional freestyle event. Not sure if that event will still be taking place next year, or this year, I should say, but hopefully Trent will hear some pretty good medleys coming out at the Highland Games in 2022. Today, Trent will be playing the hornpipe Beverly's Wedding, which was composed by none other than the president of the Piper Society, Michael Gray, and the jig, Old Wife of the Mill Dust. Ray Kai is our next competitor in the Hornpipe and Jig contest. Today, Ray will be playing the Hornpipe Rhonda Blair and the Jig, the Loch Ness Monster. And Ray hopes to continue seeing a plethora of online competitions for him to compete in 2022. Up next is Aiden Marr. Aiden, who's playing with the Guelph Pipe Band, is really hoping that the World Pipe Band Championships will happen in 2022 because the band is hoping to go and compete and has been planning since 2020 to do so. Hopefully, Aiden, you'll get to Scotland soon. Today, Aiden will be playing the tunes Sandy's New Chanter and the Donald MacLeod setting of the Shaggy Grey Buck. Playing next is Andrew Collins. Now, when the pandemic hit, Andrew started competing in solo contests again after taking a hiatus from playing. So, Andrew more specifically wants to play at Highland Games because he hasn't done so in a number of years. Um, we're happy, Andrew, that you've got your pipes back going and are competing in these knockout contests. We have seen Andrew in our previous 6-8 March contest, and today Andrew will be playing the hornpipe, Tam Baines Lum, and the jig Alan McPherson of Moss Park. Next up, we have Jamie Everett. Now, Jamie's hopes for 2022 are to see the piping and drumming scene bursting with new ideas that have been formed during various lockdowns in the pandemic. Um, he wants to see pipe bands taking more risks and wants to see what kind of creative juices have been flowing in the past 2 years that can contribute to more wonderful music once we get out in person again. Today, Jamie's going to be playing the hornpipe, Lucy's Frolics, and the jig, Heather's Wedding. We're coming around towards the end of our contest. We have 3 more competitors left. Up next is Charles David Mitchell. Now, Charles David Mitchell reflects on the Cobourg Highland Games that happened in September of 2021 in Ontario, and he's hoping that 2022 will be a much like that for the piping and drumming season. Charles is hoping that the pandemic will become endemic and that everybody will be able to return to some sort of normality in their lives, which of course includes regular outdoor Highland Games and piping and drumming contests. Today, Charles David Mitchell will be playing the tunes the Nova Scotia Nightcrawler and the jig Alexander McCaskill of Bernura, Harris. Next up, we have Mark McLennan. Mark, like so many before him, is looking forward to the Highland Games season of 2022. Today, Mark will be playing the hornpipe, the Henningham's Reunion, and the jig, the Thief of Loch Arbor. And our last competitor this afternoon is Thomas Bruce. And you guessed it, Thomas wants to see the Highland Games happening in 2022, specifically Maxville. And I don't blame you, Thomas. I'm looking forward to Maxville as well. I can't wait to get back out there and, meet up with friends who I haven't seen in years from across Canada. Today, Thomas is playing the hornpipe, Gordon McCrae's favorite, and the jig, the Skylark Ascension. That concludes our contest for this afternoon. I'd just like to take a moment to kind of explain to everybody how this contest works. We say live stream when we present all of the competitors' videos, but clearly this isn't happening in real time. Competitors this round had a deadline to register for their various contests by January 2nd, and throughout the following week, myself and the other Toronto branch executive arranged a time to meet with every competitor online through Zoom calls or Microsoft Team calls or Google Meets. And we proctored, listened to them perform their competition pieces as they recorded them and submitted their videos to us. The following week, we then compiled those videos and sent them off to our judges, who then spent some time with an order of play, going through each video one time and completing a score sheet, much as they would if the contest was happening in person. Once the judges reached a verdict with their results, they sent the results back to us, and we put everything together for this live stream this afternoon. At this time, I'd like to introduce our judges. Our drumming judge for this afternoon was Gordon Brown. Now, Gordon was born in Whitburn, West Lothian in 1964 and started taking drumming seriously in 1976 at the age of 12. Primarily taught by his dad, drum major Tom Brown, Gordon joined the juvenile band in 1976, the novice juvenile Bog Hall and Bathgate band, and slowly rose through the corps, joining the adult group, which was promoted to grade 2 in 1978, promoted to grade 1 in 1980, and then Gordon took over as lead drummer in 1991. To date, Gordon has won the Scottish, British, European, and Cowell championships on numerous occasions with both the corps and the band. The best drum corps at the 2001 and 2012 World Championships, and in 2007, 2010, and 2012 Champion of Champions Drum Corps. Gordon was also named 2012 Drummer of the Year in the 10th Annual Pipes and Drums Honors List. In 1994, Gordon's lifelong ambition came true when he gained first place in the World Solo Drumming Championships. Gordon had been in the prize list before, but had never won the contest. And then Gordon also won again in 2002 in the same event, and has placed top 6 in the contest up until retiring in 2013. Since Gordon became involved in teaching, he is now realizing it's another ambition, and he's following in his father's footsteps. Through his achievements as a teacher, solo player, and a lead drummer of the Grade 1 Corps, he has carried out workshops and seminars all over the world. Looking to the future, on the teaching side, he would hope that, like his dad Tom, he unselfishly continues to pass on what he regards as a noble art, especially to youngsters. To date, Gordon has several young players who have achieved success advancing through the novice and juvenile ranks and achieved grade 1 status. Gordon is a fully qualified trainer and assessor. He teaches in various schools and is still traveling the world, holding workshops and seminars. Gordon and his dad Tom also have their own TG and Tom Brown branded products, and Gordon is also involved in product development with Andante Percussion in Northern Ireland and endorses the Andante product. And our piping judge for this afternoon was Bill Livingstone. Bill had played a significant role in shaping the pipe band world. Before creating the 78th Fraser Highlanders, Livingstone was pipe major of the Grade 1 General Motors pipe band, and before that played with the City of Toronto pipe band. He was one of the first serious North American solo competitors in Scotland, and one of the first non-Scottish players to gain the Highland Society of London gold medal. Under Livingstone's leadership, the 78th Fraser Highlanders traveled to compete at the World Pipe Band Championship 27 consecutive years, first making the trip in 1983. Most famous achievements with the band include the 1987 World Pipe Band Championship victory and the band's landmark Live in Ireland recording that same year. Bill holds the distinction of being the only person in history to have led a Grade 1 band to the World Pipe Band Championship and to have won the clasp for Pibroch at the Northern Meeting, the two pinnacles of pipe band and solo competition success, respectively. Bill has just finished a few years ago writing his memoirs, which is available for purchase, Preposterous Tales to Follow. And today, in lieu of a recital, Bill will be doing a few readings from his book to share some of his wisdom from his experiences playing and traveling and being a part of a pre-pandemic pipe band world. Bill is doing this book reading in lieu of a recital because we've been doing these online contests for such a long time. And it's a well-welcomed break from listening to more piping. Although it would be great to hear Bill play, I'm excited to hear some stories about his past. Here's Bill.
Hello, everybody. This is Bill Livingstone. I've just completed judging two competitions, one for a hornpipe and jig in A grade and one for a 2/4 march in, I'm not sure what the grade was, I think 5. I did detect a problem with folks being careless with technique. And at that grade, it's not helpful to have that. So recommended diligent practice on getting the technique right so that you're not missing it. But at the same time, I look back to my own years of competing, and during Christmas, let alone during Christmas in a COVID pandemic year, I didn't play at all for a long time. So that may have had some impact on the playing, but it was good. It was fun, and there was some very pleasing music. So there you have that summary. To do away with the recital, and I would read some excerpts from my memoir, Preposterous Tales to Follow. There is the cover of that book with me looking very grumpy and unhappy, and I don't know why, but that's it. Now, bear in mind that these are excerpts, and so the connections that would normally exist when you're reading a thing and it flows along and you get led up to what's happening aren't really going to be there. I'm just going to read the bits and pieces that I think might be of interest to everybody. And what I want to start with is something that happened with John Wilson. For one thing, John Wilson is very important to the Toronto branch, being involved in the actual creation of the beast. John was the boy piper from Edinburgh who became very, very good and was playing with blasting caps left over from World War I and blew his fingers off pretty well. The index and middle finger of the left hand and the thumb of the left hand, so that what he was left with were stumps. Now, notwithstanding that disability, he went on to become a great piper and a great figure, particularly in Canadian piping. I just wanted to give a bit of a story about how I got to John Wilson, which was for me an entree into the whole world of piping at a high level. Here's what I say in the book. After the games were over, as always seems to happen following a piping event, a Calian sergeant's mess in the armory broke out. The adults were drinking, and there was the usual banter and songs, few tunes on the pipes, and then I was corralled to play. Like any 13-year-old kid, I had no fear of playing in front of anyone. So I simply got up and rattled off, like kids today still do, a bunch of jigs and fast stuff. Modern hornpipes didn't then exist. I can still see John Wilson sitting at a table with friends, a beer in hand, watching me with a smile on his face. What I later learned was that John then approached my dad and told him he could make something out of me. And that casual comment led to my being sent to Toronto as a 13-year-old kid to live on my own in a boarding arrangement. More of that in a bit. Many of you probably know that I grew up in a town called Coppercliff, which is still in existence, but not in the same way that it was when I was born and raised there. It's the center of what then was International Nickel Inco, the mining and smelting center of the entire Sudbury district. This is how I talk about Coppercliff in the diary. Neil Young raises his high, reedy voice and sings plaintively, "There is a town in North Ontario with dream comfort, memory to spare, and in my mind, I still need a place to go. All my changes were there. Blue, blue windows behind the stars, yellow moon on the rise, big birds flying across the sky, throwing shadows on our eyes, leave us helpless, helpless, helpless." My story begins in a town in North Ontario, but not the one of Neil's magical imagery. It's called Coppercliff, and it and its 3,000 souls sit perched on the Canadian Shield. This is a geological feature of some considerable enormity. It's roughly circular and extends across Ontario and beyond, from the Great Lakes all the way around Hudson's Bay and Labrador up to Greenland. It is very old, being a mantle of Precambrian rock, and during its prehistoric period, mighty peaks up to 39,000 feet have been eroded by glaciers and other forces of nature, leaving a rolling, undulating landscape of hard rock, barely covered with soil. What trees and vegetation survived here have to be made of tough stuff, and so too the people who live there. The first home I remember in Coppercliff was 11 Evans Road, a tiny place, kitchen, bathroom off of that, a front room or parlor with 2 bedrooms squeezed onto the side. It was here at the kitchen table that I had my first lessons on the bagpipe. My dad was teaching my brother Ranald, who at the time was 11, and I was 4. The two of them would sit at the kitchen table, music book opened, sounding away on the practice chanters. Family lore has it that I was a most annoying kid at these times, wanting to get in on the strange but enticing action. Apparently, as a result of being repeatedly rebuffed or ignored, I would crawl under the table, and from this ideally placed launching pad would deliver a, quote, lower punch, as it came to be known, to the delicate regions of dad and brother. This finally led to their capitulation, and I was allowed to join them at the table. I was ultimately outfitted with a very small child's practice chanter, a family heirloom passed down through Dad's sister Betty, a piper herself who had died many years before in childbirth. Now back to the town itself. On the eastern limit of the town, really not a defined edge, The town ended, and a few feet later, the smelter, the heart of Inco's operations in the Sudbury area, rose up. Huge buildings humming and whining, acre after acre of industrial devastation, hot metal and slag cars toing and froing, row upon row of blast furnaces, molten metal being carried in giant ladles the size of small submarines by overhead moving cranes, with bits of white-hot crap falling out of them, and the mind-numbing hiss of mighty industrial production, punctuated by warning horns, and all viewed through a smog of sulfur dioxide, so potent that it would sting your eyes, nose, and throat to the point of tears. But there was much worse. One of the byproducts of the mining and smelting process was a never-ending supply of slurry made up of water and minuscule sand and metal particles. This gunk was passed through an enormous network of pipes about 12 inches in diameter, raised on trestles, and the stuff was dumped over an area of hundreds of acres. Eventually, the water evaporated, leaving metallic dust as fine as talcum. We kids played on the sand dunes left as a result and rolled around, and God knows what stuff was there. These tailing dunes were to the west of town, so when the wind blew from the west, of course, the prevailing wind direction in continental North America, sandstorms that would have made Lawrence of Arabia homesick would rise up, turn the sky dusky, and land on and in every nook and cranny of habitable space in the town. My mother was a clean freak, and when the tailings blew, every door and window was hermetically sealed. It did no good. The stuff penetrated everything, leaving grit and film on every surface, even, I think, the vertical ones. And there's more. Inco built an iron ore recovery plant directly southwest of our house. When winds were favorable, the dense orange smoke, smelling of elephant farts. A more refined scribe might say rotten eggs, but it doesn't do the aroma full justice. Assaulted the senses. The creeks in Coppercliff ran, and still do, an alarming orange-red color, and their banks crack off and away like the rust off a fender of a 1954 Ford. So Coppercliff it was, complete with wooden sidewalks, horse-drawn milk delivery by carts in summer, by sleighs in winter, delivered by the Coppercliff Dairy, known for its fine products, with bottles left on the doorstep in accordance with the order left by the lady of the house. These horses were kept in stables at the far end of the field, close to our house. They were large and uniformly bad-tempered, and instilled in me a lifelong fear of the beasts. They did, however, produce great quantities of manure that was diligently mined by my dad and our Polish neighbor, Mr. Sharko. They trooped over the field, pushing large wooden wheelbarrows, and shoveled the stuff into them, tracking it all back for application to the vegetable gardens. It was a peasant method of adding much needed compost to the thin layer of poor soil, and it worked. We got potatoes, onions, radishes, tomatoes, charred peas, and beans, and a hardy kind of black currant. True, the weeds were vicious, given that the stuff was full of seeds for them, but my dad kept up a tireless war against them and usually prevailed. He even mixed the manure in a barrel with water, leaving it to brew and ripen, and this liquid TNT was reserved for plants that were struggling. They usually leapt out of the ground with one or two applications. That was likely a result of shock. My mother chastised my dad more than once for placing this awful brew under the kitchen window. Now, I had said earlier that John Wilson told my dad, if you get him to me, I think I can make something out of him. And so I was sent to Toronto, 13 years old, never away from home before, to a new and very tough school. I was enrolled in the 48 Highlanders pipe band, and I took lessons from John Wilson, and I stayed with an elderly couple called George and Lizzie Bly. Here's one tale from that adventure. I had arrived in Toronto near the end of August to get settled in my new living arrangements, get enrolled in school, join the 48th Highlanders, and get started with John Wilson's group piping class at the University Avenue Armories. It all came to a halt late that fall. My parents had come down to visit and obviously to check on me in the surroundings of the Bly home and observe the tender ministrations of Lizzie, the wife. Mrs. Bly was preparing dinner for all of us, and it seems she found her way rather fulsomely into the cooking sherry. She had a gas stove and oven, and she was preparing to put the final touches on the culinary masterpiece. She seems to have turned on the gas for the oven, and seeing that she had been a little slow to light it, she grabbed some newspaper, lit it aflame, and approached the oven with wobbly care. Flaming newspaper extended, and the oven lit with a heart-stopping whoomph. I was back in Coppercliff in a daze, and that ended the second stage of my learning the pipes. My dad had been my only teacher until John Wilson, and I had then only 2 to 3 months with him, but I was lucky because I had started so young and played so much that the skills were laid down on the hard drive, which was to be my salvation later. So this is a story of what I call the man space incident. I didn't know this really existed until this happened, but it did. I started going around the games in Scotland without the slightest clue about the rules, or at least the protocol. I traveled everywhere with Lillian, and when I went to the games park, she came with me. I had no idea that none of the Scottish guys did this. They traveled alone. When I consider it now, it may have been a function of raw geography. In Scotland, competing at a contest staged as part of a Highland Games, or even as a major standalone event, seems generally to involve a round trip completed easily in a matter of hours, and certainly a day. Maybe that's a contributing factor, and maybe not. It might simply be the custom, but universally it seemed that the wives did not accompany their piping husbands. Lily always came with me. She did so at home, where a one-way trip to a contest could exceed 4 or 5 hours. And she did so in Scotland. It seemed perfectly natural to share something that was so important to us both. The fact that my colleagues at the time of the events described frowned on this practice was made exquisitely, painfully clear at the Portray Games. The Isle of Skye Games are staged over 2 days, a Tuesday and Wednesday, if I recall, with the piping events held on the first day. The games occupy Wednesday and are held in the most beautiful Brigadoonish setting, a natural amphitheater called in English, rather sadly, the Lump. It's a promontory of rock that juts into the Loch Portree with its panoramic view of the Black Coolants, with the town of Portree a precipitous plunge below. And games they are, all the classic events, kids races, hill races, and of course, Highland dancing. I was required to play for one of the dancing events. I don't know which one, it doesn't matter. I didn't know what to do then, and I would know less today, but it was very cold and wet. There was a capacious tent set up, perhaps for the athletes or maybe for the pipers to tune up in. I discovered this tent. Aha! Someplace dry and a little warm for Lil and me to repair to while I try to tune my soggy bagpipe and release my frozen digits. So in we went. I struck up my pipe, and like every piper who ever lived, I turned my back to folks around me and began flailing away with some tuning notes and the strathspey or whatever it was that someone had told me I had to play. I had no idea that I had violated a treasured man space. Scattered around the sides of the tent were little shrines or totems of pipe cases, cans of lager, folded rain capes, Glengarrys, and Balmorals. Each of these little piles belonged to one of the winning pipers. As I struck up and began to prepare for the god-awful playing for the dancing, I invited Lily into the warm and comforting precinct of the tent. Jeezo, as they say. There was soon a display of male micturation, kilt-lifted urination, and nearly canine marking of territory, as would give an anthropologist material for a doctoral paper. Lily got the point. No kidding. She fled in this rather bizarre display of male dominance and never ventured into or near another piper's tent again. And I don't think I did either.
Thank you, Bill. That was great. And now on to the results. In the drumming, A Division Hornpipe and Jig. In second place, Dan Pislowski. And in first place, Cameron McDonald. In the C Division, playing a two-parted 2-4 march. In third place, we have Ross McLennan. In second place, Becca Thompson. And in first place, winning the John Wilson Memorial Trophy, Kate Thompson. And in the A grade piping hornpipe and jig, in sixth place, we have Thomas Bruce. In fifth place, Mitchell Arnold. Fourth place, Trent Harris. In third place, Greg Robertson. Second place is Aidan Marr. And in first place, winning the Ray Mackay Appreciation Trophy, is Charles David Mitchell. Congratulations to all of our winners, and we hope to see everybody out in February for our second last round of the Toronto Knockout, the last round before the final. Take care.